The endless night. It started with a minor delay, just a few hours where the sun seemed to linger below the horizon, teasing the town of Crestfall with the promise of dawn. But dawn never came. The first night stretched into the second, and by the third day, panic began to spread. The sun had vanished. At first, people tried to explain it away. Scientists speculated on a possible atmospheric anomaly, while others blamed it on climate change. But as day after day passed, fear gripped Crestfall. The streetlights buzzed incessantly, their pale glow barely enough to keep the darkness at bay. It felt wrong, oppressive, like the night itself had become a living thing, a black ocean that pressed against every window and door. The power grid began to fail. With no sunlight, solar panels were useless, and the fuel for generators dwindled. People barricaded themselves inside their homes, burning candles, flashlights clutched in their trembling hands. But it wasn't the darkness that was the real danger, it was what the darkness had brought. Strange things started happening. First, it was the sound's faint whispers carried by the wind, growing louder and more insistent as each hour passed. Some said they heard their names being called. Others claimed they were visited by long-dead relatives. But whatever it was, those who listened too closely went missing. The ones who ventured outside in search of help never returned. The whispers became more than just noise. They were invitations, temptations, luring people into the streets, into the cold, unnatural night. Sarah Chambers was one of the few who managed to stay sane during those first weeks. She kept her windows shut and her doors locked, yet even she wasn't immune to the pull of the whispers. They told her they knew her deepest fears, her most private memories. The voice of her mother, who had died years ago, beckoned her to come outside. One evening, as Sarah fought sleep, she noticed something moving outside her window. A figure, hunched and crawling slowly along the street. She squinted, heart pounding, and froze when she saw that it was her neighbor, Mr. Hastings. His eyes were wide, staring straight ahead, but his movements were unnatural, his limbs jerking as though they were controlled by invisible strings. Then she noticed the others, dozens of them, people she had known all her life, shambling in the darkness, drawn to something deeper within the shadows. As she watched in horror, a figure emerged from the gloom, cloaked in black, taller than any human could be. Its eyes gleamed like two embers, burning faintly against the void. It reached out to the figures, beckoning them further into the pitch-black abyss at the edge of town. Sarah couldn't look away, paralyzed by the sight of the faceless thing. Her neighbors obediently followed. She slammed the curtains shut and backed away, but she knew there was no escaping it. The night was alive, and whatever was out there had come for them all. There was no dawn, no new day, only the endless night and the horrors it concealed. In the suffocating grip of the endless night, Crestfall becomes a ghost town, where time has seemingly stopped and shadows take on a life of their own. Sarah, once a vibrant part of the community, finds herself isolated in her home, haunted by the whispers of the lost and the looming presence of the faceless figure that commands the darkness. As friends and neighbors vanish into the night, succumbing to the entity's call, Sarah grapples with the decision to either confront the monstrous force or surrender to the despair of eternal darkness. Ultimately, she chooses to face her fears, stepping out into the void, armed only with her dim flashlight and the hope of breaking the curse that has claimed her town. As she approaches the towering figure, she realizes that only by confronting the shadows within herself can she reclaim the light, illuminating the path for others and bringing an end to the nightmare that has gripped Crestfall.